Homer called humanity the weakest of all creatures that breathe and move upon the earth. This is strange. Humanity dominates the planet. No predator threatens the species. No environment has proven permanently uninhabitable. By any physical measure, the claim seems wrong, which means Homer was not making a physical claim. What he was describing was something more specific and more dangerous than biological vulnerability. Human beings are the only creatures that construct a narrative of permanence around their own condition. When things are going well, they do not merely notice that things are going well. They conclude without evidence that things will continue to go well, that the current state is somehow stable, somehow earned, somehow immune to the forces that have ended every comparable state before it. The Greeks had a word for the force that moves beneath all of this, Tyche, fortune, and they understood it to be in constant motion, never settling, never promising what tomorrow would bring, regardless of what today contained. That habit of mistaking fortune for permanence is the oldest and most persistent human weakness. Everything that follows is the same insight, returning in different centuries under different names. The Stoics agreed with this diagnosis. They arrived centuries later with a more precise account of why the illusion is so dangerous. Epictetus, who had been a slave before becoming one of the most rigorous philosophers of the ancient world, built his entire framework around a single distinction. Some things fall within your control. Your judgments, your responses, your choices about how to meet what arrives. Everything else, money, health, reputation, power, other people's behavior, the continuation of any external condition you currently enjoy, falls outside it. The mistake Homer was describing, the Stoics now named precisely. These external things are not possessed. They are held on loan. The suffering that follows their loss is not the loss itself. It is the confusion between custody and ownership, between being entrusted with something temporarily and believing it belongs to you. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the largest empire of his era, built a daily practice directly from this recognition. He reminded himself, repeatedly and in writing, that every emperor before him had become dust. Every city that had seemed permanent had eventually disappeared. Every victory that had felt decisive had been followed by a reversal. He was not doing this to produce despair. He was doing it to maintain proportion, to prevent the particular blindness that comes from inhabiting power long enough to mistake it for a permanent condition rather than a temporary custody. Machiavelli brought the same ancient insight into a different register entirely. He was not interested in personal psychology. He was interested in political power and why rulers who had held it securely lost it suddenly. The image he used in The Prince has not been improved upon. Fortune behaves like a violent river. In seasons of calm, it appears manageable, even predictable. Rulers build on its banks. They construct institutions on the assumption that the water will remain where it has been. And then the flood arrives, and everything built on the assumption of calm is revealed to have been built on an illusion about the river's nature. The wise ruler does not trust the calm. He builds the dikes before the water rises, not because he can control the river, but because he understands that the calm is not a promise. The foolish ruler, which is most rulers at most moments in history, looks at today's stability and reads it as evidence that tomorrow will be stable. Homer's exact error, now playing out at the level of kingdoms and armies. But perhaps the deepest weakness is not that fortune is unpredictable. It is that most people, most of the time, manage to forget that it is unpredictable at all. Pascal noticed something about human behavior that had no satisfying explanation, under the assumption that people were rational. People cannot be still. They fill every available space with activity, noise, ambition, entertainment, conversation, work, not primarily because these things are pleasurable, because remembering one's own fragility is close to unbearable. Divertissement, he called it. Diversion, the entire apparatus of busy modern life, understood as a strategy for not confronting what Homer named the specific human condition of being the only creature that can fully understand its own vulnerability and therefore requires constant distraction from that understanding. Success functions as divertissement. So does ambition. So does the pursuit of the next thing, which provides movement and therefore the sensation of being somewhere other than the place where the stillness would force the confrontation Pascal was describing. Schopenhauer pushed the mechanism one layer deeper and found something more unsettling than distraction. Even when people are not distracting themselves from fragility, they are maintaining a different illusion about it. The belief that the next specific achievement will finally deliver the stability that all previous achievements failed to deliver. The next promotion, the next relationship, the next level of financial security. Each of these is held in advance as the thing that will resolve the underlying uncertainty, and when it arrives, it does not resolve anything. Desire simply relocates onto a new object. The illusion survives fully intact, while each specific reality it attaches to fails to deliver. What makes this more corrosive than ordinary disappointment is that the illusion does not learn. It does not update in response to repeated disproof. It changes its target and continues. Taleb brought the entire excavation into the present and showed that modern institutions commit the identical error at systemic scale. Human beings systematically underestimate the probability of rare events, not because they lack intelligence, but because the mind builds its models of the future from the recent past, and the recent past rarely contains the specific catastrophe that is coming. Careers are built on the assumption that the relevant industry will remain structurally similar. Economies are constructed on models that treat the events that would break the models as negligibly probable. Entire civilizations extend on the quiet premise that tomorrow will resemble yesterday closely enough that yesterday's preparations will be adequate. And then something arrives that the model did not contain. A pandemic, a financial collapse, a war, a technological shift that renders entire categories of assumption obsolete overnight, not because the event was unimaginable, but because the systems were designed as though the calm was the permanent condition rather than the interval between disruptions. Taleb called these black swans. Homer called the tendency that produces them the weakness of all creatures that breathe and move upon the earth. Human weakness was never physical. It has always been the same thing across every century that has tried to name it. The tendency to look at today's fortune and conclude, without justification, that it has made a promise about tomorrow. It has not. It never does. That is Homer's oldest observation. It has not stopped being true.